Hey, welcome everyone again. This is Heretical Weekend's number 6 Fundie roundup and possibly some modal philosophy logic stuffs, which I am told is not quite as fascinating as it sounds. We, we, had, we had a busy week, and I thought it would be quite entertaining to hear what's been happening this week, what's been going on with my crew here. Fox in the Know, Run Gavin Guy Run, and the Atheological Potato, as always. Say what's up, gentlemen, so we know you're alive.
What's
Woot
up?
woot.
Greetings.
Woot woot. I try to not sound robotic during that intro because it's pretty much off the cuff. So
It's good.
oh, thanks, man. I don't really.
I enjoyed it.
Fox. So tell us what's been going on in the world of your Google Hangouts and Matt Bell, your favorite.
The venerable Matt Bell. Um, well, I think after last week's very deep and interesting and drawn out interaction with Matt Bell, all 9 minutes, which I think is quite long, really. I think I probably took a record there. I've not really had any contact with Matt Bell other than on a thread which Ozzy and Floyd were commenting on, and Seamus. I can't remember what actually the content of it was now, but Matt Bell put himself forward as a balanced, a source of balance and authority, as if he had something to contribute of use and value, which is and basically my thoughts were, why would anyone want to talk to you when you are rude, obstinate, condescending, aggressive, dismissive, overbearing, overruling? Who does he think's going to want to talk to? Do you think like Ozzy and Floyd and me and Seamus, who probably got better things to do? I know I certainly do. And then obviously it proceeded then to just basically show what he's made of, which is rude and condescending. He was rude and condescending about Floyd in the comments. Pretty much everybody really on YouTube bar Ozzy, I think he thinks is beneath contempt. So I think that's quite a nice little lesson there. Hopefully he's learned something from that. If he actually wants to contribute, which he's more than capable of doing, if he's capable of not muting people and talking over them and demanding certain rules and that, he could be quite valuable to the conversation. But until he can calm down and learn how to actually engage with people, that doesn't try to constantly belittle them and make them feel like there's something wrong with them, that they're stupid when they're just and just asking they just join a hangout because they want some conversation or a bit of debate, or even a little bit of banter is not necessarily a bad thing. But until that happens, I don't think anyone's going to engage with Matt Bell. I think he's quite lonely, quite sad. I mean, you see in my G Plus stream, certain requests for hangouts that never seem to take him up on it, and he'll probably think that's a sign of how he's defeated everybody. But really, it's just a sad reflection on somebody. He's become quite a sad individual in the community, which is a shame because, like I say, I think he's spent a lot of time and effort, which is the tragedy of Matt Bell. I mean, there's an opera in there, I'm sure. The tragedy of the guy is basically, he spends all this time going through all this material and learning it, but he never, if he truly wants to, gets to actually put it out there and explain it to people. It's just lost because within the first 5-10 minutes he's got everybody's backs up and he just sends into a slanging match. So that was my contact with Matt Bell, and yeah, that's not going to move forward because, I mean, he could probably have come in tonight, but he would have just done the repeat performance of last week. So yeah.
That's funny. So the problem I see is that he spends. You're right. He's a bright guy. He spends a lot of his time learning this stuff. The problem is that he spent a lot longer time learning to be a jerk, I think, which is part of his problem. Like he's just his attitude keeps him from any sort of intellectual conversation or anything. Any dialogue that would prove to be progressive or thought invoking or anything like that. He's more.
Yeah, I think the problem with Matt Bell is he is all tactics and not strategy. So
Yeah.
he knows how to dodge and to make people look foolish and kill a conversation, and avoid having to go into the details of these arguments, which doesn't matter how much you polish a turd, it's still a turd. And I think the problem is that even as sophisticated as some of these philosophical apologetics get, they just never actually quite um, do the job that they profess to be able to do. So I
Right.
think maybe he's aware of some of the flaws that lie within, and even if within a hangout with us those flaws didn't get exposed, someone in the comments probably would expose them, or someone would watch it and then come into another hangout with him and he would expose him. So he's not interested in doing that because there's a position that cannot be given up for him. He has pre-theoretical beliefs that he holds on to and he will not give up. And in that sense, he's no different from a presuppositionalist or any other type of fundamentalist that we find on YouTube. For all the pretense of this academic, the god of the philosophers and all that, he is still clinging to Yahweh and he will not give Yahweh up. Um, so I think, yeah, so I think well, that's Modal's problem really. He doesn't. I don't think he really does want to get into the nitty gritty. I think he's just learnt the blocks, the diversionary tactics. He can throw out references and say, well, have you got a source for this, etc., etc., which is something which a lot of these conversations are not amenable to necessarily. He would do a lot better if he went into a written debate. If he instead of his threads slagging off atheists for not being strong atheists or slagging off naturalism or whatever it is he wants to slag off, if he actually went into detail in his threads, laid his arguments out there, linked to his sources, presented them as somewhat formal academic papers, people would probably take him a lot more seriously. But again, that doesn't ever happen. We just get the cantankerous old Scott,
An academic debate. Hey, Ron,
yeah.
you said you saw part of that video. Did you, or Potato, I see the part with Matt Bell on it?
Yes.
I mean, Potato was there. I'm sorry. Duh. I mean, Ron, did you see the whole 9 minutes, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was sad because it's just like, well, it was a just complete diversion and deflection tactic, because he's clearly he's capable of handling himself in a discussion, and oftentimes is very domineering in conversations without any moderator or anything. Um, but for him to jump in and insist on, you know, all of these different demands. I mean, you have to pay for nanny service, and I mean that wasn't it, but why? What is the purpose unless it's just to delay and stall and divert from having the actual discussion, right? I mean, I don't see he's doing the same kinds of things as apologists who are not of his intellectual or educational caliber. Um, I mean, it's just a slightly different take on it. But I'm not going to discuss, Bible from you, is what Seitan Bruggencake will say. I don't do Bible studies with atheists. Well, I mean, this is just another kind of tactic like that, it's sad and curious to me, given the fact that he is smart and somewhat knowledgeable.
No, I think he's knowledgeable. I don't know how smart he is. I mean, one of the comments he said that he was of the caliber and an equal of Ozzy, and he was able. And I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. Apart from anything, even if you were his intellectual match, which I think he's far from doing that, you're nowhere near the man's level of respectfulness in a discussion and his ability to converse properly with people. This is so important in the academic arena that he has such a ridiculous pretense to being a part of. I think in his head, and he thinks he's of that caliber. And you wanna speak to people like Ozzy, you want to speak to people like Gary Edwards. Well, they're not going to talk to you because their time is limited and they don't want to be shouted at and they don't want you to insult other people that maybe the rest of us don't have PhDs, and that's fine. This is this whole environment. The reason why you come here is because you want some kind of informal engagement with other people, whether it's adversarial or whether it's, in terms of friendship. I mean, whatever it is, you don't come here to present academic papers. You don't come here to to present formal kind of philosophical theories, unless other people, are willing to do that. I mean, you can put it, Google Plus has that. You can put. I mean, I do sometimes. I put long rambling posts out there, which probably very few people find interesting. But I mean, that's that. People, I don't shove it in people's faces. I don't demand people have got a degree in the subject before they can talk to me, because as I said to Trey Jadlow, it's, if the argument's good, it doesn't matter if it's an illiterate goat herder who is the one who's saying it. If it's good, it's good. So it is just all diversions, and it's just this unwillingness to put it out there for us to actually look at it and examine it. And then, because we'll start to take it apart, I think he's become quite precious of his apologetic, to the point where he doesn't want to share it with everybody. He just wants to keep it all nice and shiny and hidden away in the cabinet. He's not going to get it out in case we smash it to pieces.
It's like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the problem is, I mean, when you look at someone like William Lane Craig, he's been doing it for so long. He's very polished at producing, trying to close down potential avenues of dissent on his position. But there is a fair amount of literature out there for people who say that they think Craig is wrong about something. So it doesn't take long for Matt Bell to say something about causation or whatever it is relating to the Kalam. You can go out there, you can Google it, you can do a reading for a few hours and find actually that it's quite problematic. So if you ever come back into a hangout with Matt Bell, then you can, or write on one of his threads, you can then put it out there. Well, there's a big problem.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be an expert to kind of engage with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Bell says that the first premise of Kalam is scientific. He's basically said that it is consensus that it works. But if you Google that up and go, let's say, philosophy forums, then it is not so obvious anymore.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, both premises have been challenged, and both by science and by philosophy. So, you can argue the Kalam till the cows come home, but you're never going to get the kind of purity that someone like Matt Bell wants, where you can just say this is scientific fact and you're irrational to argue against it. That's just not going to happen.
Oh man! Wow. Well,
but that's Matt Bell.
That's Matt Bell. Are we done with Matt Bell for now?
You're an idiot.
That's what I was waiting for. No, I mean, we given him 10 minutes, so I'm pretty sure.
It's
we should
more
have
than
given
he
him 9
deserves.
minutes.
You've wasted entirely too much breath on him, Fox. So.
I tried.
You tried. You gave it your best.
I genuinely did try to engage with the man, and I've said on numerous posts that I'm willing to be educated, and if he knows something that I don't know and give me a different perspective on it, I'll go away and chew on it and think it through. That offer stands, but he has only ever given me condescension and derision, so I can't see it actually ever materializing.
Why talk to you when he can insult you?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If he really has credible, legitimate information to give out, but he's withholding it and instead wants to use the opportunity of talking with people just to berate and belittle them, it certainly doesn't say much about his integrity or character, for one thing. But I think it also speaks to probably the lack of actual information that he has. So.
Last thing about Matt Bell, I really like when he goes against Otter Teased. Did you guys see that hangout? There was the Johnny and Vegel, and he basically destroyed them.
Yeah, that is somewhat.
Yeah, he's quite good for that.
Yeah. When was that?
You have to see that. That was awesome.
I don't know
liked
if I've
his-
seen
his-
that
his chat
specific
with Matt
one, but
Slick.
I've seen him in hangouts in the past with other theists, and
So he's condescending both ways.
yeah,
Yeah, he's an all equal opportunity condescender, I guess.
Yeah.
That's another-
He's just
But
a
the-
curmudgeon all around, I think.
There's the hangout with Matt Slick is pretty good because
Wait, he talked to Matt Slick?
yeah, about Calvinism, and it
No.
lasted for about half an hour or something, I think, before maybe he got booted off the show because obviously it was Matt Bell. But Matt Slick and Matt Bell, I mean, it was just like these two condescending, arrogant, pricks who were basically just going head to head, and bashing at each other, and then eventually just, nature took its course, and Matt Bell got booted. It's quite funny.
I love when I love when Fox goes through like a whole thing of like being this well thought out sentence, and then he goes pricks, and just to summarize to the audience, pricks.
Well, that's. I mean, I can pretty much say Matt Slick's a prick. I think I don't need to.
I think I will.
to say that. Yeah,
I will.
But with Matt Bell, when I'd seen him from afar, and I sometimes heard him talking sense, and I didn't think his approach was. I thought he was rude and obstinate, but I thought, well, maybe the guy's actually got something. So you can forgive a lot if someone's got a good position and brings something to the debate. So I was willing to engage with him, and I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I held off from calling him a prick for quite a long time, but it was just an inevitable conclusion.
We did our best. We did all we can.
No.
So for me, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the hangout that Run Gaba Guy run. Are you Run or are you Gaba Guy? Which do you want to be called?
you can call me either. If I'm referring to myself, I call myself Gaba Guy, but I don't care. People call me Run all the time, and it doesn't bother me.
Gabby. So Gabby, no, Run. I Run maybe easier. You had to me would be an epic hangout. I don't know how else to describe it for me because it literally made me want to jump through my monitor and start ran-camming people because I would very much like to go through each individually. I mean, yeah, I want your overall impression of the hangout, and I kind of want to get into your interactions individually with Roy Montero and Raw specifically because, what's the other guy? Johnny?
Johnny, yeah.
The guy with the koala bear thing?
Yeah.
Koala picture? He's kind of like the Down syndrome version of like the other guys to me. So, and I know he's like running the stuff, but even if someone makes a good point, he's sort of kind of like does up the situation, like I just get dumber listening to him. So I would like to see like if you can give me or give us an overall impression of that hangout, how long it lasted, what you thought, what the best and worst parts of, and then we could possibly lead into like Roy and Raw, at least first off, because they seem to be the biggest antagonists in that room.
Yeah, well, I think I kind of had a hangout withdrawal, I guess, and because I had been on out of town and wasn't really participating much on G+, so I made up for it last night, I guess. But I think it was in all probably close to a 3 or 4 hour hangout, and
were you bored?
Yeah, well, I was bored before that. So, but it was Johnny KZ, and the hangout kind of theme or whatever when I jumped in at the very beginning was supposed to be basically like kind of the presuppositionalist thing where you can't even have knowledge or talk about claims or whatever without a god, and I kind of just pushed the idea. Well, why do you even start with a god? What is your reason for that? And of course he's trying to go back like, well, you can't have anything without a god, But so it was just kind of this almost a stalemate kind of deal where. I'm saying, well, why do you think there's a God, and how can you think that there's not a God? Is essentially what the comeback was. But so we went around. Johnny what is his name? KZ something or other.
No idea.
I don't know, but yeah. So he kind of was taking the presuppositionalist thing, and I interacted. Raw was there. Rand Campbell was there for a while, and
Randam.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, it was a kind of an epic hangout.
Don't do it, bro.
Yeah, and I got Johnny KZJ was the whose channel it was on. So
This is the biggest bugbear you have to have with presuppositionalism. It's so easy that the most stupid people can use it. Like, I mean, like, let's take something like the modal ontological argument. It's really complicated, so your average fundamentalist is going to look at it and go, oh, what the hell's that? I can't use that. But presup, as long as you can basically read to, like, you know, beyond like the edge of an 8-year-old, you can use it, and you can just go mad with it, and you can make the most intelligent people with the most with ridiculous amount of education want to pull their own hair out. It's just like, yeah. I just think it's something almost quite brilliant about it. It's just so terrible, but so terrible and easy. Like a cancer, I guess, an intellectual cancer.
Potato, have you had any experience with pre-stuff at all?
Well, I have talked to Arcane, but that basically, I mean, there's a couple of, I have had discussions with couple of pre-subs that, like Jimmy, what was his last name? He's basically very good at pre-sub, and yeah, but I haven't really have any about epistemology directly. I more talked about ethics and such. But yeah, I mean, not really. Arcane is the only guy that I've talked about, but he's a moron, so.
I'd like to go on record this week because Arcane was brought up to say, fuck Arcane, and I'm done with him now.
Yep.
Yeah, I just whenever he goes on, I just post the same challenge to him and ask him how he gets out of it, and he accuses me of bitching or of just being lame or whatever it is, and he has no response to it. He doesn't realize. I mean, they don't realize that they're in the same boat with regards to skepticism as everybody else, and I've never heard anything that approaches an escape hatch from hyperbolic doubt. It's impossible. They're no better off than anyone else.
No, of course not. No. Sorry, that's all I had. No, you're right. I mean, I can get into it, but I think we all know, how ridiculous it is at this point. I mean, it's
I don't even bother to type it out. I've saved it and I just copy and paste it. And
well, he had a hangout with Alex Botton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if Alex was bored, but he was like, "Yeah, man, you called me out, Alex. What do you got to say?" In that stupid voice. And I'm like,
it just sounds so slow, like he's like.
Right. It's a very lazy way of speaking to me. It's. I don't know how to describe it. His voice is it's the voice that just irritates me hearing it. I don't know why. It just does. But how do you even have any sort of intellectually honest conversation when his response to everything is, "That's your opinion, man. That's your arbitrary opinion, man." That's all. I mean, that's all you got. I mean, what are you gonna say?
I mean, he used to say one time "Is that your opinion or the truth?" Also, that was so. I mean, he has these one-liners, and he ignores what you say, and I mean, as Fox said, I mean, it is useless to have conversation with that guy.
Yeah, it's just his.
Sorry.
No worries. It just seems like his position. I mean, he with Precept you dig yourself a hole, and then with him he just pulled the dirt in after him. Like, it's literally to a point where you can't have a discussion with him anymore because he's, by dismissing everyone's position as just an arbitrary opinion, then he's already, in his eyes, at least won, I think. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean,
fuck
the
Arcade.
assumption is, yeah, he's terrible.
Okay, Gabaguy, tell us about Roy Montero. He was quite the subject of Talking Shit Tuesday.
Oh, don't tell us about Roy Montero.
Is that your first interaction with him? See, I've seen his dopey face, like his thumbnail, that dopey picture. I've seen it like in other hangouts, and I think he's normally in the room with
Nate.
Is it Nate? I see him with Xbox Fiend or Friend.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that could be too.
And Xbox Fiend seems like a nice guy, but he has like these 8-hour hangouts, and I just can't sit. I mean, how do you sit through 8 hours to hang out? But
Yeah.
But he's in there, and I know he doesn't normally speak up. And when I've heard him speak, he was generally like, didn't say anything retarded. But at one point, he started with this God or no God, and you have a presupposition. Even if you tell him no, that's you think my atheism is a conclusion. He's like, no, he just doesn't accept any answer you give, except the dichotomy he's trying to shove down your throat.
Right. Well, yeah. He's trying to box me in and say, okay, these are your options. It's just false choice. The thing that bothered me most about my interaction with Roy was when he was kind of trying to, I don't even know how to describe it exactly, but basically threatening, like if I don't stop asking questions that he didn't like, he's gonna kick me out. And it wasn't even his hangout.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, and he's controlling the conversation and stuff. I've been in some hangouts with him before, and I think he has kicked me because he didn't like questions that I asked or answers that I gave. I don't know which, and it's always confused me, like why. Because I've seen him a lot of times with Nate Cunningham, and I like Nate Cunningham. Nate Cunningham, of the kind of more conservative Christians on G+, is probably one of my favorite guys to interact with, because I think he's at least kind and doesn't go about playing games, I don't think. I can relate to Nate Cunningham. It seems a little odd to me that Nate hangs with Roy as much as he does, just for that reason that Roy definitely does try to box people in and put words into their mouths, because he'll ask a question and you can give an answer, and then he'll completely ignore what you told him and say, well, this is what you said. And it's like, no, I didn't say that. I've said something completely different than that. You didn't listen to what I said, which is very frustrating. But
of course. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just agreeing with you.
That's about it.
I think that just as a side note, the funniest part, and I literally, people say LOL, but I really mean it when I was cracking up at my desk. You guys were talking, and then he goes, like you were saying before, he goes, so let's move on, and then it's kind of like this collective pause, and you go, is this even your room or something like that?
Right, yeah.
Are you hosting this? Like, I thought this was someone else's, like Johnny's room.
Yeah.
And just the utter, like, not shock, but just like the audacity of this guy, and your reaction was just priceless.
Yeah.
Fox, do you have any interaction with Roy at all?
No, I've not. That's probably a good thing. The whole thing for me it's just bizarre. I mean, I think he's genuinely convinced it's a real golden argument, and this is in the beginning God or not God. Okay, so you either have God or you don't. So you have to go one way or the other. It's like you've got two paths in front of you, and I go down that path because that path, as if it's a completely arbitrary choice, as if you don't you don't hold off going down either path until you have some reason to go down the path. It's as if you were born, and the first conscious thought you have is, right, okay, before you get going in life, you've got a choice. Okay, God or not God. What are you going to do? and it's as if there's no understanding that you are interpolated into beliefs and traditions and a culture, before you have skeptical faculties that are properly developed. And a lot of people actually do say God, and then as they develop, decide not God. And presumably those people for Roy are people who never really were God. It's the the rare comfort thing as well. If you become an atheist, then you never were a Christian in the first place. You never really believed it, or else you'd still be believing it. So it's an intellectual firewall to keep him from having to seriously address any counter objection that's put to him, or any objection of any kind. So he doesn't have to seriously consider it because they're all coming from the perspective of not God. So again, that's fine. And also he doesn't have to do any work in terms of arguing for why God, because it's just an arbitrary choice. And only when you look back do you have the reason why. Once you put your God goggles on and they're welded to your skull, you can't take them off again. Well, everything then looks like God. I mean, he says he looks up at the sky and there it is. You see not God. He sees God, and it's just like there's no way of getting to someone like that. The damage has already been done to his brain. And the problem is everything that comes to him as an objection. There's these very strong structures in his brain that are just going to bury them and then throw them away. They're not going to have any consideration.
It's his version of it's his version of Arcane doing the arbitrary opinion thing. It's he already, like you said, he boxed you into this thing and he can pretty much, it's a firewall, like you said. He can pretty much dismiss everything else after that.
I mean, there's something obnoxiously stupid about it, but at the same time, again, I think there's something quite brilliant about it. He has no pretense to actually being a part of the debate. Seriously, as long as it's within the God avenue, as long as he's on that path, he can have about a few debates about how slowly to go down the path or what particular direction the path might take, blah blah blah. He can have all that, but as long as he stays on the path, he will be fine. But he's not even capable of thinking of the possibility of the not God path and why people might be on it. So there's no way of ever bridging that gap with him. So again, if you're not really interested in genuine debate or someone questioning your belief or having to make a proper defense of your beliefs, then it's brilliant because he has a perfect defense. Everything that comes to him is either quoted in God or quoted in not God. The ones that are quoted in God, he'll keep them, he'll have them. Anything that's quoted in this non-God stuff, he doesn't have to kind of examine them. He can just throw them away straight away. It's this brilliant filter system. There's no way it can fail because anything that could stop it would automatically be rejected straight away. Why would you even bother interacting with someone like that unless it was explicitly within the realm of you also being on the same path? I mean, I think for us who he just thinks are not God, and where this is another brilliant thing about the way he views the world is that we are mirror opposites of him, that we think exactly the same way, but our values are reversed. So we are just as close-minded and blinkered, and we've got our not God goggles welded to our skulls, and there's no way they can come off unless the Holy Spirit yanks them off.
It's kind of
that's
weird.
the way it's going to be done.
It's kind of weird. I always thought when they try to put us in the same category, like the whole atheism is a religion thing, or you think like us, so we're two different sides of the same coin kind of thing.
Yeah, science is just faith. It's just having
it's almost like they took. It's almost like in their head they understand all the objections about religion. They understand, when they pose an argument, and it gets ripped apart. And it's almost like they realize that they get shredded in these senses, and they want to put atheism on that same level. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, you're not really helping your own cause. It's not like raising up religion. It's trying to make atheism as, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the same level. Yeah.
And so, I didn't word that really eloquently, but you get the idea.
Yeah, it's almost kind of the tu quoque. Well, you guys do it too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's
okay.
Exactly.
It's almost like our arguments for our religion are so shitty. We're gonna just define yours as a religion because we already know arguments for religion are shitty. You know, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not helping them any. I don't understand.
But when
Yeah,
you're both in the same position, well, when both positions are, have been argued to the point where they both seem unsound and they don't really have anything that would make you go for either one or the other. So there's no mm, um, matter of fact that could make you go to one or the other. Then it becomes an emotional choice, and they think that they've got the emotional package that is going to seal the deal and get you to jump onto their path, which is going to be, oh well, we've got an afterlife, we've got an all-loving God, we've got a source of absolute morality, we've got a sense of community, we've got a a less impoverished worldview of not just having, that spirits exist, and there's this great cosmic struggle going on that you're a part of, and there's this thing that loves you and is supremely powerful. You don't have to think anymore about the hard stuff. You don't have to resurrect these broken beliefs that science has failed to kind of do the job for. You can just come with us and everything will be okay. And that's what they want. They want to pull down skepticism and science and atheism to be in the same muck and mire that their beliefs are, and then hope that they can win on the emotional stuff. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're moving away from Roy, because I mean he's done, right?
well, I have last thing about Roy. I mean, he says that we all have the evidence, but we interpreted that in different ways. So I'm not exactly sure what he means by that. I mean, how exactly is that supposed to work? I mean, it seems some kind of teleonomic argument that because God have designed everything, therefore everything leads to God, or something like that. I mean, I would like to ask Troy at how would he know how would he differentiate God creation from not God creation? But I think that is impossible since he presupposes that God has created everything. So there's no way that it can be disproved.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can present to him. He's just going to said that we have a different presupposition and therefore we come to different conclusion. I mean, what we are supposed to say to that?
Yeah, and by even posing that question, he's going to put you in the no God category.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So you still lose.
yeah. No way to win that. I mean,
Yeah.
no way to
But
make
people,
argument.
but
You're
people
dismissed
haven't
from the
gone to the
conversation at that point.
yeah. I
So,
think in talking Tuesday, I think it was Soccer who did a really good job of saying, well, actually, what if you say God and then later down the line come to realize that that was the wrong decision to make? What happens then? But of course, again, that's just dismissed of, oh, well, you just you didn't pray hard enough, you didn't believe hard enough, you didn't have enough there. You were never really on that path. You unconsciously made the decision to say not God. And it goes back to this thing of, well, we all know that God exists, that we're just suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. It's just there's no way that you can make progress with people like this. All you can do is expose the stupidity and show that it's a very extreme position to hold. If you do have any care or consideration for being rational and being skeptical, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an atheist. But if you want to be a theist, then you want to put your theism on a stronger footing. Then you can't do things like Roy or Arcane. It's just so damaging because everything it's such an impoverished epistemology. It's just ridiculous. Um, it's just such a terrible way to look at the world. And I think the point of engaging with people like him is just to show, well, just don't do it. It's right. It's the same as people like Trey Jadlow and whoever it is who take these extreme. No, I'm not. It can't be wrong. I'm right. I'm right. You just don't get it. You're just stupid. You just don't understand it. If they do it and they're arrogant about it, or if they do it and they're humble and nice about it, it doesn't matter the way they do it. If that's the position they're taking, then we can't really say anything more to them that's going to ever convince them, I don't think. Um, we might be able to tire them out, we might be able to exhaust them and break down those defences just out of sheer trench warfare. But these guys they're pretty committed, so I don't think that's going to happen. So then I think the value really does come from just the possibility there might be some people out there who are on the fence. They sort of see the attraction of going down that route, but at the same time, we need to show them the dangers of it, what it does to you as a rational, thinking human being, whether you're a theist or an atheist. So that's I suppose that's what I think about it.
What do you think of? I guess this is going to run because you'd actually talk to him. What did you think of your interaction with Raw?
Raw gets to the point where he shuts down the conversation and just starts preaching.
I said the theme.
Yeah, and that can get frustrating because it's just like you're not listening to what I'm saying. Now you're just hurling things that you think are factoids, or you're just presenting your metaphysical beliefs to me, and you're not getting any feedback from me. It's no longer a conversation, and that can get frustrating in a hangout. One of the things that I kind of wished that I had kind of pulled out of the conversation. At one point he was talking to me about, well, why do we eat? And saying, well, Christianity is like you're hungry and then you embrace Christianity and then you're satisfied. And I pointed out to him, well, people of other faiths would make similar claims that they're hungry and now that's satisfying. But what I didn't kind of pull to the forefront was the idea, well, okay, if does you're being satisfied, you're having an emotional kind of satisfaction from a religious belief mean that it's true? Because if that's the case, then yours is on equal footing with these other religions, unless you have some way of measuring the satisfaction or the degree of satisfaction that the religions can actually give to you. So I wish that I had kind of been thinking of that a little bit more clearly. I think I kind of drew out at least the point that you don't have anything, at least on the claim front, that these other religions don't have equal claim to.
Right. You did a great job of that, and I like that you stuck to your guns with that. I think they just kind of lost it because they weren't getting the idea that they don't have this absolute truth, or they may not have this absolute truth, I should say. But they would go along and state all these things and assert all these things, and then they'll do it for like 30, 45 seconds to a minute, and then at the end you go, yeah, but someone from Islam could say the same thing. And then after a while, it just seems like they just gave up. And then, especially for Raw, if you don't acquiesce to his position, or if you don't or if he feels that you aren't getting his point, he does exactly what he did. He just starts telling you what your position is, what you believe, and then he's like, and then at one point he was like, "I'm telling you about you." You're like, but that's not my position. And he's like, right. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what you are.
Well, and one of the other interesting things about Raw is like his conversion happened when he had kind of a vision of Jesus. And I've been in hangouts with him in the past. This wasn't brought up, in last night's hangout and stuff. But he
on a potato chip.
No, but that experience that he had, this vision of Christ, happened when he was, in his own words, high as a kite. And it's just like, why would you trust that that's what's, that was actually a real experience, that there was something, associated with the real world, when you were clearly not, in sound presence of mind, right?
Yeah, it's like saying, oh, well, when I had that bout of schizophrenia and Jesus spoke to
right.
And that's why I'm a believer today. It's just like,
when I was doing shrooms that time, I saw God.
One of the pink elephant, he believes he knows as well.
Yeah, I believe, you know what? It kind of jogged my memory a bit. He would, I think the story goes, and I could be wrong because I don't care about him all that much, but I remember him saying at some point that he was a fornicator or something, and he considers himself a murderer because one of his girlfriends got an abortion or something, and he was going to some chick's house to fornicate, and then they got high. It was along those lines. Like it's that old story where like I was a scummy piece of shit and I found God, but apparently he was high when he did it. So I don't know exactly. I guess we can't say it didn't happen, but I'm doubtful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like even academic literature that says that religious experience somehow gives you a warrant for a knowledge claims. And it is all based this experience, this supposed revelation. I mean, it's kind of weird that, but I mean, it is.
Or from other people. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I
I
was
was
just
just going to say,
finishing
like, I
that.
mean, William Lane Craig and they, you know, he actually believes the supposed accounts of other people's revelations. So it's not even his own direct revelation. He bets the bank on other people's revelations. So imagine having, I mean, at least Raw's, you know, he had presumably those visions and experiences. But imagine not having that, but believing someone else who lived like nearly 2,000 years ago.
My problem with Rot isn't necessarily his experiences or how he came to be a Christian or anything like that. I've seen him in many other things, and I mean seriously, and I kid you not, and I know we talked about it a little before the hangout, but the guy's a monster. I mean seriously, like I said it before, if he was the leader of a small country or like North Korea, we'd all be screwed. Like he's the guy that will do horrible things, you know, in the name of like a religion or something. And to me, a person with that mentality is the most scary. And I don't mean him as in like I fear what he would do, for example, like in real, like right now, because he probably works at 7-Eleven or something, but or like a Pep Boys perhaps. But I meant like if he was in a position of authority on some level, you know, his mentality is what's scary to me. I don't know how someone could lock themselves into that position, and just it's just very scary, that whole mindset.
Mm.
And by the way, Potato waited 15 minutes to speak, and then he's got three words out. Potato, do you have a point? I feel bad. We totally.
Yeah, no. I was just finishing that. I was just saying that it's so weird that there's this idea that, like you said, that you could be taking shrooms or something like that and have experience of Jesus, and therefore you are warranted for claiming that I'm building up some kind of legitimate epistemic system for knowledge, like a Plantinga calls that. How does he say? It is a warrant as proper function, right? Isn't that right, Fox?
I don't know.
Wait,
I mean, I
what?
thought,
You mean in relation to the evolutionary argument?
yeah.
against naturalism?
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure how Plantinga would say that, but he has this like a evolutionary reliabilism. I can't yeah, I think it's the same concept that somehow when you believe God, that uh, like the outcome will be something like if S believes that B is grounded grounded in even E, if A in the circumstances E caused S to believe, and I'm taking this from Stanford. But yep, yeah, I mean it's just the same concept, right? That but that seems so vague. I mean, some kind of vague experience, and therefore God.
Yeah, I don't. You know, people don't realize that I forgot whose quote this was, but it was like the easiest person to fool is yourself. Does anyone know who said that?
I've not heard it, but it sounds good.
Yeah. Well, then I said it. It's my quote.
That's R.C. Sproul. Come on. It's gotta
So can someone please explain to me who Johnny KG, whatever that guy is?
Richard Feynman is your quote.
Oh, is it real? Oh, well, then I'm in good company. I was Googling it too at the same time. This guy just came on the scene recently, right?
Yeah, Johnny KZJ.
Yeah, what's his story? Does anyone know anything about him? Is he a pre-supper? Is he,
I don't even know if he's
yes,
real.
he's a pre-supper.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's former Muslim.
Is he really?
Yeah, he was. Now he's Christian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he doesn't seem. He seems like the kind of guy that would open a hangout and invite people smarter than him. But like this one, like me, like I invite people smarter than me. So I am the Johnny of this room. But whenever he speaks, even if there's a good exchange going, he interjects and he brings the dumb. I mean, I don't know. Has anybody heard any of his arguments, or I haven't heard anything of substance.
I'm not sure if he's genuine, to be honest.
One thing or one criticism of Johnny KZJ is that he has been opening his hangouts up to everybody, and other people will take over. Like, I mean, who was it? Roy was doing last night. Kind of suddenly becomes the dictator of Johnny's hangout. G-Man did it to him last week, I think. There was a hangout, and everybody was just like, "Are you kidding me, Johnny? You gave mod controls to G-Man?" it was ridiculous. He was booting people and muting people, and it was just a circus, which usually is the case when G-Man's involved in a hangout, especially when he's got mod controls. But
did you guys see when I don't remember if that was that hangout, but Johnny was talking about how we should cancel science classes, basically, if he was in power.
Oh,
and the G-Man was the I don't know how to say it. G-Man was the voice of reason in there. Like G-Man was saying that
This is why I think he's probably not real. I think he's a mole. Maybe he's a mole, and he's gone in there. Maybe he's doing some sociological experiment or something where he's
maybe
targeting this
I think
particular
it's a
group.
Poe.
Well, because obviously, if you buy the script and learn the script and go in there, you're indistinguishable from someone who genuinely believes it. So pre-sub is the easiest way because it's the most retarded apologetic out there. To be a Poe, it's so easy, and because it's so extreme and such a ridiculous thing to do, that you could be a Poe quite easily. I mean, you don't have to learn your Bible. You just have to sit there going, yeah, but could you be wrong about that? Is it possible you're wrong about everything you know? So I think his views are so ridiculous and so out there, and when he speaks, I just don't buy it. I think there's something a bit off about him. I mean, I've not listened to that much of him because he's just too stupid, but I just don't buy it. Personally, I'm not buying it that this guy's genuine.
Yeah, Run, you were in the room with him. Did he make any good points at all, or did?
Well, no, but it was he went through the precept kind of stuff occasionally, or brought that into the conversation. And one of the things that he kept bringing up and kind of harping on was, we can't have knowledge or knowledge claims without absolute truth. So there has to be absolute truth. And when I tried to press him on, well, what does that mean? He would say, well, it's true for all people at all times.
Yeah,
and I said, well, can you give an example of something that is, qualifies as absolute truth? And he never gave an example. I might accept something like mathematical truths or laws of logic or something like that, maybe.
But even that doesn't apply if you get into quantum mechanics.
Yeah, well, there's the issue of, well, before people had language to even describe those things, were they true in some sense? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, how do they even determine that? I mean, I like how I believe at that point you said, what's the difference between truth and absolute truth? And then you had to go 2 rounds of that before they just go, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
And then is it by absolute truth? Are they saying? Do they mean objective? truth as we would think it, as like a fact of reality, or are they saying an absolute truth? You know what I mean? Like it's such a loaded terminology that.
Right. Well, and I think in the side chat I was writing, I was typing in there. Well, I think what you mean is magical truth. Because to me, it's you could put magical truth and you can't have any truth without magical truth, and it has the same content from my perspective, anyhow. Because I think that's what they're getting at. It's Jesus truth.
I wish they would just be honest about it. You know what I mean? Because I've asked that question too. What do you mean by absolute truth? And they don't, and they give you like that definition, but they don't really have an example for it.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you'll hear them say something like, "Oh, a God exists," and then you go, "Well, obviously you disagree," and then they go, and they get back into, well, you're suppressing it, and so it's a big circle.
Right. Well, and one of the things that he said, well, is it absolutely true that you exist? And I said, well, it's true. I said, but there was a time when it wasn't true, right? So it's not true for all people at all times. And he was like, absolute truth. I don't know what he said after that, but that was kind of like.
Because his head exploded. That's why. Wow. That's. Was there anybody else that did anything of substance in that room that you can remember? We got about 5 minutes, 10 minutes left. I think Fox has to go, so we're probably gonna close up.
And one of my favorite interactions was when Rand Campbell was talking about.
Oh yeah.
When he was talking about marriage vows and saying, well, what do marriage vows even mean if you don't have a God? And I just thought it was really ironic and kind of called him out on it, because I said, well, you got married, and I said, did you mean your vows absolutely? Because he was pressing Xbox on that. And he said, absolutely, yes. And I said, and you're not married now, right? And he was like, well, no, I canceled. I fired her or something. It was like, well, what does that mean then? If you hit absolute commitment that is conditional and subject to cancellation, what are you even talking about?
But you're at what point do you realize you're arguing with a crazy person?
When he starts screaming at you and telling that he's gonna slap you through the computer screen, I suppose.
This is the funny part. I don't know who the guy is that has like the Iron Man picture or whatever, like his face on the Iron Man picture. But when
Cross.
Is that who? Okay, I've never heard of that guy either. But when Rand went like insane and he's like, "Don't compare it to fairies" or that and all that stuff. And then he pauses and he goes, "Well, the reason Rand is so defensive and so insulting is because," and he tries to be like this calm. He had his calm voice on.
Right.
And then I'm like, at some point, look, I'll be honest with you. If we had a guest in here, and let's say Potato went apeshit one day and started yelling, we would all probably go, "Hey, Potato,
It's gonna happen sooner or later.
right, he's gonna snap. Calm down, dude. You're out of line. Whatever, But no one in that room would step up and be like, Rand, just stop. And it really makes him look bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, they don't seem to get the how you explain it to him that the way you believe in God is or don't believe is it's on par with leprechauns or fairies. You know what I mean? And that's it's like.
Well, and I tried to explain. I wasn't trying to give offense, but that's the level at which the claim about God exists for me. And right. To them to try and say, well, just believe. I wouldn't be able to do that any more than they could suddenly believe in magical elves or something. I mean,
right.
That's where we're at. So that's not an option.
Yeah, you know what? And I've said that too to people about, because you brought up at one point the conversation went to I think you were talking to Johnny at that point, but you were saying can you just believe in Santa Claus? Like, can you just believe?
Yeah.
And he was dancing around.
That was funny.
Yeah, and he kept saying, "Well, I don't want to."
Yeah.
but I could. Well, okay.
No presents for him.
You should make up something, if you ever have that conversation again, make up something even more ridiculous that makes him look like a retard, like a complete, utter, retard. And then, almost like how Alex Button has people arguing that he may be God or their God, kind of in the same fashion, you know what I mean? Like no,
I'll work on it.
Yeah, I could totally believe in, gay pixies flying my butt, or something so completely ridiculous.
Right.
So anyway, who else is in that room? Or does anybody have anything else that happened during the week that was interesting?
Yeah, I had some interesting interaction with a guy called Inspiring Philosophy, who I don't know if anyone's aware of,
I've
but
heard of him.
he makes quite flash and not terrible videos actually. Some of them are a bit out there, a bit weird. Videos on theism and philosophy. So he's got videos about Leibnizian cosmological argument, the modal ontological argument, which is what I was commenting on. Basically, he's doing what I think someone like Matt Bell or Trey Chadler should probably try and do. At least he's putting it out there, and at least he responds to comments. So I had a comment thread with him where I raised an objection about the modal ontological argument. Um, but unfortunately, it didn't really go particularly well. It just kind of descended into dodges and appeals to authority, and so my objection never really got answered, which is not really surprising. But basically, he made the assumption that I was an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. So he made references to Saul Kripke. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm familiar with a bit of Saul Kripke. What does Kripke say that proves what I'm saying is metaphysically impossible? And we got into this little back and forward about I posited something which seemed logically possible, which is all you really need to run a modal ontological argument. Not to get too much into detail, depending on which axiom you use. And I did that, and it then threw up something which contradicted with the definition of God as being the creator of all things, because I said, well, basically, we can easily conceive of a possible world where there exists something which was uncreated or uncaused. So if that's possible, and if we say, well, then that exists at that possible world, then it can't be that God, the maximally great being, is the being that created all things at all possible worlds, unless you beg the question and say God gets to go first. Um, so I was saying, well, how do you solve that problem? And basically just dodged it and said, oh, well, that's not possible. And I'm like, well, yeah, it clearly is. I mean, does it raise a contradiction? And then he says, oh, well, yeah, it's logically possible, but it's not metaphysically possible. So I said, well, what's your criteria for of deciding on what's metaphysically possible and what's not? And he never got round to giving me that. So basically, just sidestepped my objection. And it was just one of the many problems with that argument. But he put it forward as being the best argument for God. He even says it in his video. I mean, he argued
Yeah.
and then he had the the kind of the gall to then say in my responses to him, oh, it works because we've got all these other arguments that feed into it. Well, how is it a good argument then if it's reliant on arguments which by definition are not as good as it?
Yeah, I mean,
Think of how does it work? Where you this hodgepodge of terrible apologetics and you roll them all together. It's like, all right, don't like that one. Okay, well, how about the Leibnizian cosmological argument? No, it fails for blah blah blah. Oh, I don't like that one. Well, here have the Kalam, or here have the transcendental argument. It's just it's just inspiring philosophy is a clever person. I think he put a lot of work into his videos and he gets quite a lot of responses for it. But the problem is, it's just something quite sad about clever people spending so much intellectual effort to prop up these arguments which ultimately just which fail to convince or unsound. And there's a perfect example of it. I mean, at least there is some engagement there. He's not rude. He takes the time to respond back. So Matt Bell, you can learn a lesson from someone like that. But ultimately, it just it went nowhere, and I was hopeful that the opening exchange was a bit more fruitful and profitable, and we kind of going around each other and drawing out potential issues that we had with each other's responses, and then it just kind of dried out completely towards the end, and we were arguing over something so far away from the point. So it's quite sad that even very clever people, if they are a theist first and a philosopher or a scientist second, then God comes first.
Yeah, I mean, didn't he say that it is best argument for God, but did he say that it doesn't prove God? He just said that it is best argument though.
I think he's got down to saying that it's a circular argument.
Yeah, I mean it's totally first premise is identical to the conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I think he wants to say, well, at least it's a rational position to take.
I mean, I think he's saying that the point of the argument is not to prove God, but to inform what the definition maximally great being means.
Yeah, which is all well and good, but we don't care about that. We want to know
Yeah,
these
I
are
mean, what is the
maximally
point?
great
What
beings.
is the point if I'm going to give you argument and then say, that, hey, I'm reasoning in circles here. I mean, are you
I think
convinced?
he's probably realised at some point, he's picked it up and he's found this kind of quite complicated and difficult argument and gone, wow, this makes sense to me, this works. And then he's seen the responses to it and he's seen how complicated it gets. And then he's also seen, even I think Planting himself, who's the main proponent of the argument, say it's not so much a proof as a way of putting forward a rational position. But I think he does actually, at one point in his video, he did say, "Oh, this is the best argument for the existence of God there is." Well, if that's the best argument, then I'm not convinced.
Yeah,
At all.
that's the best one.
I mean, I think it's the best one because it's the most difficult to counter because you've got to go do a lot of reading and you've got to learn about accessibility relations and the various axioms in the modal family, and it gets quite complicated. And you have to see why it goes, why something like, say, the B principle just seems a bit too strong, and you can get from these possible worlds all sorts of different entities which clash with other entities, and there's no real way of sorting out which ones exist. So it's probably better not to try to do anything other than say these are closed worlds where you can pass out necessity and possibility, and it's a useful tool for logic. But when you go into the business of trying to define beings into existence, it's a fool's errand. And I think that's just the thing. And just to say, yeah, I've got to go watch Poldark. So
We're trying to figure out what Poldark is.
it's a BBC drama series that my girlfriend really likes, and it's not bad actually. It's got the guy who was in the Hobbit films. He was one of the dwarves, the good-looking dwarf that.
The one with no beard?
Yeah, the one that got with the elf woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in it.
Oh.
So my girlfriend really fancies him. So I better go watch before she gets too. She'll hate me for saying this, but
actually, our side goal is to keep you talking about philosophy to get you in trouble, to see how long.
she'll already be in trouble. So I literally have to go, but you guys could just carry on.
Yeah, there's one last thing I want to actually talk about. So, Fox, if you got to go, have fun.
Like a minute if it's really quick, but
no, it's regarding the news about the CERN Hadron the Hadron Collider.
Cool. I'll watch it tomorrow. Go for it. So I'll see you all guys next week. Oh no, the week after. Sorry, because it's Easter next week.
Yeah, I think we're going 2 weeks after this. So
Say hi to the Poldark dwarf.
yeah.
Yes, I will enjoy it. I'll be thinking of you guys whilst I'm watching my Poldark.
Aww.
Later, Fox.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Have a good couple weeks. So have you guys read that article about the CERN Hadron Collider and the debunking of the Big Bang, possibly?
No.
Really? Wow, it's been on all my news feeds. So the CERN Hadron Collider has been under repair, I think, for a while, maybe a year or two, I think, if I'm reading it correctly. And I haven't got into the article too deeply. However, what's happening is that when they fired back up, these guys, and I'm butchering this, dude, so please bear with me, but essentially they found that when they fired back up, if they can see mini black holes when the Hadron Collider does its thing, they'll be able to look through the mini black holes and see actual parallel universes. This theory for rainbow gravity, if you want to Google that, it supposedly solves or at least reconciles issues with Einstein's theory of general relativity. So, and it looks really promising, but they won't know until they fire up the CERN Hadron Collider in a little bit. What it's supposed to state is that the universe, there was no Big Bang, and that even though I guess it stretches back infinitely, so not to a singularity, but it goes back to a point that, but never gets to a singularity. It stretches out infinitely.
Huh. I mean, that would destroy the race argument. Totally.
Right, and exactly. That's the first. When I explained it to my girlfriend yesterday, I was much more. I sound much more intelligent. And I get on the internet and I sound like an idiot. But essentially, it's if you Google it, there'll be several articles on it. Like I said, they'll actually be, from what I've some of the ones I've read, they'll actually be able to see through, quote unquote, the mini black holes and into parallel universes, and it would destroy a lot of everything. And my question is this: assume for a second it goes and Big Bang looks like it's going to be on its way out, hypothetically. Two things are going to happen. One, there'll be a certain club of theists that say, see, science is always changing, science is wrong, science never gets it right. Yeah. And then that same group, or maybe another group, will say, well, look, we have all these. We'll say we have all these different universes. Look at this, and that. And they'll go, you know what? God did it. Boom. Explained. Yeah. Right? I mean, am I crazy?
No, yeah, absolutely, you're right. And yeah, it's interesting to me, and I think it's from the perspective of a theist, when they kind of create these arguments based on scientific ideas like the Big Bang. So, like the Kalam, for example, rests on the idea that there was a beginning to the universe. It's a precarious position for them because science does change when we get new information, and certainly our cosmology, there's just so much out there that we don't know. I would not wager 50 cents on the current Big Bang theory, or assuming this Hadron Collider discredits that theory and there's something new that comes out of it. A new theory, I wouldn't put much stock in that either, because there's just a heck of a lot that we don't know about how the universe formed and whatever, and we put together, or scientists put together, the best explanation given the current data, but there's more data all the time, and it's something that is very dynamic.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's going to jump out the gate and say, like, this is it, this answer is the theory of everything. But if you haven't seen the pictures of the CERN Hadron Collider, it's pretty epic. Like, it's Godzilla-size epic, and it's right. In Switzerland. I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures of it, but
yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm more fascinated in the ramifications to all these arguments. So, like you mentioned, the Kalam, the first person that popped into my head was Trey, who is just so adamant about no infinite regress and all that stuff, and it's nonsense and this and that. But you brought up a good point with the Kalam. A lot of these things are so ingrained with, like, a beginning, and especially that when you take that away, what happens? Are they going to have to reinterpret what, quote unquote, the beginning means? And kind of go back to the drawing board and restructure the argument to reword it? Because didn't the Kalam wasn't always in its current form as it is now, right? Like,
no. Yeah.
It had to say, like, that everything that begins to exist, right, versus everything that exists.
Right.
So don't you think they would probably just go back and restructure, reword the argument to try to make it fit?
It would be really hard for them to retool the Kalam, I think, because it really is dependent on the idea that anything that begins to exist has a cause, and the universe has a cause. Therefore, there's a cause for the universe, and in order for it to, something to, I forget exactly how it flows, but that starting point is critical for the Kalam, and if the universe doesn't have a beginning, premise 2 is pretty much collapses, and the the universe is then eternal, so it doesn't need a cause.
Yeah, gosh, it's going to be a lot of trouble for people, especially for William Lane Craig. I mean, that guy, you know, he's a character. I mean, he's the only person I know on the internet that I want to punch a picture of his face, like just like his profile picture, like that
Smug smile, yeah.
Yeah, that smug smile. Like I just want to like reach, like just shake him, grab him by the collar, just like shake him. But for people like him that base almost, I would say even a career, on this sort of thing, I can't imagine what they would do to to fix that. I mean,
yeah, I mean they have to completely. I don't think it is possible to. If there's some kind of, I'm not exactly sure about what this scientific finding means, but if there's some kind of actual infinity, then there's no way to make Kalam work in that sense.
No.
I mean, there has to be some kind of ex nihilo or something.
Yeah, and Trey would probably hang himself. So.
Yeah. The Leibnizian argument still would work, I guess, because it's different. It's the whole what is it? The contingency, the argument from contingency. So Trey's stuff might still work.
Well, if this universe is shown to exist infinitely, then because he dismisses outright infinite regress.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think the Trey's argument run is completely right. It might work because universe could be eternal, but I don't know. But if the cause of the universe is if non-contingent, he just needs some kind of non-contingent being, and
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, you'd have to show that there was some reason for thinking that the universe was contingent, which I don't know. You might be able to. You definitely have a better shot at drawing that out with the Leibnizian argument than with the Kalam, I think.
Yeah,
but
they would just change Kalam to the Leibniz. They would just change that to the.
Yeah, by the way, if you guys couldn't tell, anyone listening or that watches this in the future, I understand I completely butchered that explanation on the CERN Hadron thing, so bite me. I don't need any correction on it. Just read the article. I read it like 3 days ago, and so. But you guys didn't consider the Rancam argument. He would publish it to the effect of, "I'll slap you, universe. I'll reach through the computer and slap you, universe.
Oh my goodness.
You aren't infinite, my God is." So.
I mean, that is fallacy of argument by intimidation. I think that is actual fallacy.
Yeah, but he's like he has a picture of boxing gloves, like for his little profile picture. And was he a boxer or something, or was?
Yeah.
Oh, was he? Because isn't he kind of like I seen his picture? I mean, he's like a fat old guy. So I mean,
yes.
I don't even get like. Do those boxing gloves, do they hold like chicken McNuggets? I mean, like, why are they? I don't think it's very intimidating, you know what I mean? Like, is there a bag of Cheetos in there? I mean, so, anyway, that's all I had. I wanted to get your guys' take on that. Do you guys have anything else you want to throw our way?
No, I don't think so. I'm good. Potato?
Talk so much, Potato. I mean, come on.
Well, about the Sony guy, I don't think there's this. Well, you guys already talked about this. I'm not sure if it was online, but what there is to say. I mean, this is completely crazy. This killing for Jesus if you hear voice in your head, and I mean, what there is to say. I mean, Christians have the idea that. If God commands you to do something, then you have to do it because it is a morally good thing to do that. And I guess I want to challenge that notion basically, that make some kind of meta-ethical argument that if there are no moral properties or facts, and therefore God commands doesn't even have some kind of intrinsic value, and this is pretty. I'm not sure you guys are probably interested in meta-ethics, but my point is that sorry about Randy, but my point is that if I could show somehow that there really is no intrinsic value in God, I mean, if I could show that somehow, then perhaps this, I don't know if this works on Fundies, but but I think that would be a good argument against that you ought not obey God.
You're talking about like divine command theory kind of stuff?
Yeah, basically. I mean, there are usually the guys like Johnny, and they are divine command theorists, right? That basically that if God commands something, then the command itself is has the property of making that judgment right, or something like that.
Right, because God's nature is good and God's nature is just, so whatever he commands is that. Yeah, I like to think of it as we do shitty things, so if we define our God as good, then we don't feel bad about doing shitty things.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. To me, it's just basically that. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the idea is that God is some kind of ontological foundation for goodness, and but the problem, there's so many problems with that. I mean, good.
Well,
I mean, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if that's true, then what is good
Yeah.
is really just arbitrary. I mean, unless God had some reason or was able to mold his own nature in some way that relates to some kind of rational foundation, then what is good just is by default what his nature happens to be.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing qualifying it as good apart from what his nature just happens to be, then you're just calling it good because it's his nature, and you could pick anything and say, well, this thing whatever it randomly happens to be is good because that's what good is by definition.
And it makes the word good meaningless. I mean, because good as the general, I would say the general populace knows, you know what I mean, like the whole well-being thing and all that stuff. Good as a general definition, we understand it a certain way, but when they're defining their God as good, and he does or commands them to do really shitty things, it doesn't make any sense. It makes the word meaningless. At least.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, usually they define God as a maximally great being, and somehow because God commands, you have to obey it. And yeah, I mean, the arbitrariness of that is good objection, and but I think if they want that to work, then good has to be some kind of Aristotelian notion that there's some kind of form of the good, and
right.
When we say that hammer is, I have good hammer, for example, then what I'm saying that that hammer corresponds to the form of the good, or I'm not.
But it conforms to the nature of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be able to have a working definition of good other than it's God's nature. If God's nature is good and good is God's nature, then are they saying that anything that, and I think Alex Botten does, is anything that ontologically operates in its own nature is good, like my cell phone or my keyboard. There needs to be a working definition of what good is other than God's nature, because
it is tautology, parent tautology. And there's of course, the naturalistic fallacy. Are you guys familiar?
I've heard it, but I don't remember it offhand.
Yeah, I mean, it basically that if the good is the, let's say, pleasure, then the well, I have to check it out. I can't articulate it. But basically that good cannot be some kind of distinct property. I mean, there has to be basically if you say that something is natural, therefore it is good, then that commits the fallacy because damn it, I have to check that out. Sorry, guys. But yeah, they can't really say that it is the God's nature because yeah, it runs into problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a tautology at that point. I mean, it's
Well, and
yeah, that's
I-
what the fallacy tries to establish. I think.
I kind of tried to press Johnny KZJ on this last night, early in the hangout. He was saying, anything that God commands is good, and that you should obey no matter what. And I pressed him and I said, well, would you kill children? And this was also tied in with the idea that God never changes or God is unchanging. And I said, well, he clearly changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament because he doesn't have people running around marauding and genocide now. And anybody that suggested that he did command that now, Christians would say, no, that's not how he does it anymore. So it's something has changed, and
went to management. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and I said, I asked Johnny KZJ, I said, would you kill children if he told you to, or if he commanded you to do it? And he said, well, he doesn't do that now. And at one point he said, but he will in the end times. And I said, okay, well, let's say it's the end times. Would you kill children? Would you take a sword or take up your sword and kill children? And he said yes. And I pressed him. I said, well, okay, so let's say a child is running away from you. You would run after the child and hack him down with your sword if you were commanded by God. And I didn't get to press him any more than that. But it's a pretty horrific idea that whatever this God commands. And how do you know that what you're hearing is the God? Just for crying out loud, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scariest thing, and this is what I was trying to get at with Raw earlier, is they really abandon any sort of internal sort of moral critique of what they're doing. It's they're confusing obedience with morality, and
yes,
it
can lead to some very, very scary results.
That was my point with Raw. It's just a Molotov cocktail of like bad thoughts and that's I'm sure the guys at ISIS think similarly. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that guy Ron last night, Iron Cross, was pressing me and saying, well, why do you spend so much time on YouTube and on Google Plus arguing with people? And I think he was trying to, I don't know if he thought he could get me to say that I hate God or something like that.
God's not dead.
Right.
Yeah.
But that this is the reason. It's because I think that these bad ideas have serious consequences in the real world, and I'm here to try and dissuade people from those beliefs if I can, and those kind of epistemological, very, very bad epistemological systems.
Yeah, I got a quick question. Okay, so from my understanding, and hopefully one of you guys can answer this. So you have the Old Testament and you got the New Testament, right? And when you talk to a Christian nowadays, they're like, that's the Old Covenant, blah, 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 blah. We don't do that anymore, right? But, we don't do the genocide thing, this and that, but they follow the Ten Commandments and they still, don't like gay people. So, I mean, are they, you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to abandon the Old Testament, I mean, at least how they say they are, should they not cherry pick the whole, just the parts that are heinous and, and horrendous? I mean, wouldn't they be, because the New Testament says nothing about homosexuals, right?
It does. Paul does. Jesus doesn't. Paul does.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I meant Jesus. I'm sorry, but yeah. What does Paul say?
He calls it an abomination and says men working, with men, as lying with men as if they were women was unseemly, and but then he goes on and lists a whole bunch of other things like witchcraft and lying and disobeying your parents as kind of equivalent sins. But it's clearly there as a sin in Romans at least, and I don't know. I think there's at least one other book.
Didn't you bring that up yesterday in that hangout? Like you guys worship Paul, and they all went apeshit. Like
yeah, well, what they were doing, the context for that was that they kept insisting that I believe in God, but I'm suppressing it. And I said, well, anybody can say anything about someone else and just say that they're in denying it, that they're suppressing the truth. And so that's when I brought that up. I said, well, you guys are just worshipers of Paul. You love Paul, and it was quite a response.
They all went like, oh! It was awesome. That was awesome. That was one of those times where really knowing the Bible a little more comes in handy.
Yeah.
And I definitely haven't read the Bible. Like I tried, like I attempted, I couldn't get through Genesis, so I'm like,
I mean, I have the same problem. It's so boring.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, from growing up, my mom's religious, and so, you hold the Bible, and it's this book, and for people that don't grow up with any sort of grow up in an atheistic household, it's literally a book. But for people that were former believers, the book still holds a lot of weight. Maybe not in the same context, but just for the fact that just from your upbringing, you know what I mean? I don't know if that happens to you guys, but I mean, like, so I'm reading this book, like, my mom gave me a Bible, so, it's for my mom, and so I'm trying to read this thing, and I'm like, a part of me is, like, just going, oh, dude, I want to throw up in my mouth, like, this is so boring, doesn't make any sense. This guy's 900 years old, and he's drunk, and he's naked, and, this is stupid, and then, like, I just couldn't do it, But at the same time, it was from my mom, so I couldn't like just chuck it out the window. You know what I mean? Like,
is your mom like religious?
She is, but I don't. I mean, she was just. It's part of her culture. My mom's Puerto Rican, so.
Okay.
So
yeah, I get it. It's like they have this like in the Greece they have this cultural thing. I mean, it's not like directly they are religious, but I know what you mean. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just and she goes to church and and she tries to get my nephews to be religious and go to church and stuff, but it doesn't work on them either. Mainly because no one else in my family is religious. So, and then there's me. I'm sure I'm the negative influence, but at least
we'll have to do like Bible stories segments on the show once in a while.
Oh, dude. If you want to, I mean, you're more knowledgeable about that than I am. If you want to like pick out stuff and we'll read through it or go, I would love that.
Yeah.
I would totally love that. Oh, we've reached an hour and a half. What do you guys? How you guys feeling? I'm thinking this is a good place to stop.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm gonna. Yeah. So we're going to 2-week format, everybody. We will see you. Geez, I don't even know. Someone help me out. The 12th? The 12th.
Yeah. Yes,
and this will be opposite of any other more well-known show than this one, right? I think that was the plan. But thanks to our viewers, I think we even doubled or at one point tripled our viewers this week, which is which is awesome. And I'm holding out for one day we'll be in double digits. So with that, you guys have great next 2 weeks. This is Mischievous Heathen, Run Gabagai Run, A Theological Potato, and the possibly getting busy Fox in the Know. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Heretical Weekends.